This is the GigRig More or Less. It's a remote amplitude module. What? It's a volume pedal, a buffer, a splitter. It has up to 12 dB of boost in it as well. But I've already got a volume pedal, I hear you say. Yeah, and you've probably got a bunch of issues with it. For example, do you ever struggle with finding the perfect level between low and high, constantly balancing your foot trying to find exactly the right spot, especially with mini pedals? More or Less enables you to set exact heel and toe positions for minimum and maximum levels. And the LED will even tell you whether you are more or less or at unity. I do speak to people that are surprised that their volume pedal doesn't actually make their signal go louder. Well, this one does, up to 12 dB of boost. Depending on where you place More or Less in your signal chain, you can use that boost for a couple of different things. For example, you could use it before your overdrive pedals to punch the signal into them, make them more gainy. Or you can use it at the end of your pedal chain for a straight solo boost. Let's talk about practicalities. More or Less tucks away neatly in, on, or under your board. You control it with a separate expression pedal that you can place wherever you want it. Even better, there's no audio running between More or Less and your expression pedal. So you could even have it back in the loop of your amp with the expression pedal front of stage with no loss of tone whatsoever. Speaking of tone, you might be a bit confused by all the volume pedal types, especially the different ratings. Don't worry about that with More or Less, just put it anywhere in your signal chain, including in your amp effects loop, anywhere you want. Getting slightly more tweaky, surprise, surprise, the taper of a standard volume pedal is something that's normally set. In More or Less, you have 4 different taper options. This means you can tailor the sweep for your expression pedal for the smoothest transition from quiet to loud, loud to quiet, more or less. Let's look at some practical examples. Here we have More or Less first in your signal chain, and it's basically an extension of the volume pot on your guitar. Using a clean sound, it's a simple volume cut or boost. Using overdrive or distortion pedals, reducing the volume to the input of the pedal will clean up the tone. Now we're moving More or Less after our gain pedals, but before the wet effects, such as delay and reverb. In this position, it means it won't affect the overdrive level or the tone of the gain pedals at all. But it does mean you can raise and lower volume while maintaining delay and reverb trails. This is how lots of guitar players use their volume pedals. Next, we're moving More or Less to the end of the signal chain. This is now a master volume or a master boost if you want it. Turning it down will turn down everything, including your delay and reverb trails, but turning it up will give you a boost for everything and it won't affect the gain structure. Now you don't have to use an expression pedal if all you're after is 2 adjustable master volume levels. Here we're using a GigRig latching foot switch to simply switch between our 2 levels. And finally, More or Less will even accept a control voltage signal from anything that will send one. That enables you to modulate the volume up and down, which at its simplest is a tremolo. But beyond that, it could be pretty much any stepped volume change you might want. And finally, a couple of extra things. More or Less also has an auxiliary output, which is split straight from the input, which bypasses the volume section. You can use this as a separate constant feed for your tuner, for example. So when the output volume is at 0, the tuner is still getting signal. Silent tuning. Or you could use the auxiliary to split your signal and send it to another source, a DI for front of house, a direct recording feed, even a second amp. And finally, the audio in More or Less is internally balanced, giving you super low noise and massive headroom. Why is that important? Incredible clarity and dynamics in your tone, whether you're using it on your pedal board or in the loop of your amp, anywhere else for that matter. More or less. It's more or less, or more or less, or more.